This has been a miserable season. No, it's not.
Never did find a paper, did we?
Press button. No, that's just sleep.
We never did find a paper.
Hello.
Oh, come on.
Yeah. How you
Yeah, I
doing?
think you're right.
Very partly cloudy,
Huh?
very partly
Oh,
cloudy.
that's the same as the weather.
Fair enough.
We sound the same, Greg.
Yeah, pretty much, right?
Yeah, we do.
It's like,
Yeah.
Hey, there it is.
All the cool people.
Are they?
a little building.
Yeah. What are they doing with the Designware building? Oh, good. Wait, meaning closing the sale up?
No, the easily accessible exterior wall that has been penetrated by demolition crews.
Brandon's probably late per usual.
I'm ready when you are, Mr. President.
I'd like to call the Village of Middleville Committee of the Whole meeting to order. Rhonda, may I have roll call, please?
Mike Kramer,
Here.
Stephen Baldry,
Here.
Robert Bishop,
Here.
Richard Hamilton, Mackenzie Peters,
Here.
Kevin Smith, Ann Williams,
Here. I'll make a motion to excuse trustee President Pro Tem Kevin Smith. Support.
We have a motion with support to excuse President Pro Tem Smith from the meeting. Any further discussion before we vote? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Please rise for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Everyone should have a copy of the agenda in front of them.
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda.
Or motion with support to approve the agenda as printed. Any further discussion before we vote? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. All right, public comment. If anybody would like to speak, please take the podium, state your name. All right, moving on to village projects. I did not see Brandon here.
He said he would be here, so, but we can move ahead, of course.
All right,
So
we'll move
those-
on to Michigan class while we wait for Brandon.
I can introduce Jeff.
I'm gonna put a hyphen and put Jeff.
So I have Jeff Anderson with me. He's CEO, right, of Michigan Class?
I'm called lots of different things.
Lots of different things? Okay. Jeff, lots of different things with Michigan Class. So I'm gonna let him go over the program first, and then there's a agenda memo for you guys to take consideration after that, so. Right, Jeff?
Thanks, Craig.
Yep.
Thanks for having me, Mr. President. Really just want to spend a few minutes today to talk about what Michigan Class is and the benefits that our local units in Michigan can gain from participating in the pool. So Michigan Class is a local government investment pool. So we take funds from any municipality in the state of Michigan, city, village, township, county, school district, fire authority, utility authority, any library, anybody recognized by the state of Michigan as a local unit is eligible to participate. Today, we've got 800 local units in the pool and just over $4.5 billion of Michigan local government money. So the pool was created back in 1992 by a group of treasurers that really wanted to work together under the Urban Cooperation Act of 1967 to really achieve four things. Number one is to band together to invest their money safely. So Michigan Class is AAA rated by Standard & Poor's. So that's the highest level of assurance a local government investment pool can achieve. So AAA rated. Number two is we wanted to be able to create a way to invest to invest local government funds, but have those funds liquid. You're all probably familiar with a bank certificate of a deposit where you give the bank X amount of dollars for X amount of time. And then at the end of that time, they give it back to you with the interest that you earned. So that takes a little bit of planning on a local government perspective to know how long can I invest this money? When are we going to need it? When's that project going to come up? And as Craig and you all know, that can vary from time to time. With Michigan Class, your money is liquid. So if the village had $1,000 in the pool and you needed that $1,000 tomorrow, it's simply staff entering a transaction in our secure web portal, and the money is in your primary bank account tomorrow morning. So daily liquidity. So that's a nice feature that our units really benefit from. And then the third thing is yield. So because we're a larger entity at $4.5 billion, and we work together, all 800 units, to invest our money, we're able to achieve a pretty darn competitive yield. So today the yield is 5.43%, and we actually pay interest every single night. So if you had a balance tonight, you would get interest paid to your account tonight and would be available to use tomorrow. In addition to that, tomorrow you would earn interest on the interest you earn today. So it's called a compounding effect. Helps your money grow just a little bit faster. So really it's safety, liquidity, and yield are the three primary factors for Michigan Class and the benefits. But the other thing is convenience. There's no maturity dates that staff has to manage. There's no someone's on vacation who handles our renewals for 2 weeks, so that money is going to sit idle. The interest is, or your money is working for you every single day in Michigan Class until you need it and transfer it out. There are no costs to the village to participate, so there's no minimum balances, there's no monthly minimum fees or maximum fees. It's really for you to use when it makes sense. A couple of things that a lot of our villages enjoy is you can have as many sub accounts as you want. So everyone's got a general fund account. Maybe you have a capital projects or a local major street fund that you want to segregate. Or we've had a lot of folks want to segregate their ARPA money, especially our larger municipalities. So you can have as many of those as you want. What that does is it tracks that interest separately and allows it to grow for record keeping purposes. It's easy to determine how much each bucket earned in interest. That's kind of the high level overview. Is there any questions, or I'll turn it back over to you, Craig, and see if you have anything you want to add.
I don't think at the moment anybody have any questions initially. So for example, he was talking about water and sewer, so we can track the earnings we have from the water and sewer fund separately. And then when we go to calculate, recommendations for rates for the upcoming year, we can use that data to generate that, so we can give you a better idea of where we think the rates should be for the upcoming year and things like that too. So, or even for, anything else, any other, projects we have coming up, we can budget, easier for what we know it's coming in, things like that. So,
getting back to the safety piece, I'll back up a few years. I was the finance director on the west side of Lansing in Delta Charter Township for almost 18 years. And I found Michigan Class when I worked there because I wanted to diversify the township's money. We had all of our money, frankly, all of our eggs in one basket of a local bank. And I really struggled with that. And so I found Michigan Class because a dollar comes in and it's automatically diversified 300 or 400 different ways. And you own little tiny pieces of this huge pool of investments that are all PA 20 compliant, which is our state of Michigan kind of Bible for governmental investing. So I love the diversity of it, and I love that it's liquid and available to use when you need it for projects.
and with the exception of, we've got a CD with Third Amp Credit Union and then another CD with Huntington Bank. Everything else is in Huntington Bank right now. So we pretty much have exactly that, all of our eggs in one basket. So we've got a agenda memo with a recommendation if you have any questions on that, with some other information too, which I'm sure you've looked over.
I mean, 5.43% return on investment's pretty decent. So
It's way better than we're getting right now.
yeah.
A couple other things that I'd like to mention. 73 of our 83 counties in the state use the program. Of those, a lot of people say, well, who are the 10 that don't? 7 of the 10 are in the UP. They're just sort of a little bit of a different animal there. And then the second thing is we have partnered with the state of Michigan. They came to Michigan Class a couple years ago. Some of you might be familiar with the LCSA, the Local Community Stabilization Authority. Really was enacted in 2013, 2014 to replace PPT reform to make our local units whole. LCSA came to us about 2 years ago and said, we are not very good at sending money to local units of government. We want you to do it for us. So now whether you get an ACH, a direct deposit to Michigan Class, or a check, we handle that for the state of Michigan. So we've partnered with them to do that. So it sort of gives us some clout that we're, you know, we're able to partner with them to do some good things.
Since we're not all here, I'll make a motion to move this on to the regular agenda for the next meeting.
Support.
Get the motion.
All right, we have a motion with support to move this on to the regular agenda for the next meeting. Any further discussion before we vote? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Right.
Thank you.
Thank
Thanks,
for your
Jeff.
time.
Yep, sounds good. We'll talk to you soon. Thanks.
All right, we will circle back to Brandon now that he's here.
Thank you. Good to see you all. Got to me on the agenda quick, quicker than I anticipated. So nice to see you all. I got some updates on several projects that we have ongoing. I guess I'll start with the traffic study, which we were able to complete. We did the field work in December. I believe it was December 19th was the actual date. So school was in session. It was a weekday, very representative of the worst of the traffic that we see along that stretch. Kind of all boiled down to, talking about the level of service, those of you who went through that, but basically the wait times and such, to the recommendation of a 4-way stop at the intersection of Bender and West Main there, kind of green as it transitions to Green Lake, and then enhanced crosswalks also, which could include like a flasher. There's actually a system now where they put lights, LED lights in the street there, the crosswalk, that are safe and winterproof and things of that nature. So that's been our recommendation there, and we can help anyway, getting information to Berry County or whoever else helps need make that decision about implementing a 4-way stop and then laying out the crosswalks and such too.
So just
yes.
to follow up on that, so I'm meeting with Alec, Craig McCarthy, Chris LaHaye, and Sergeant Ware this Friday to go over that, and then also the area around Lee Elementary and Main Street, and try to come up with some solutions with that and see, what kind of buy-in maybe they might be able to put up some funds and things like that, and then come back with a recommendation for you after that. So
Or maybe some additional enhanced
Mhm.
crosswalks would be in order there. At the wastewater treatment plant, the work is now complete. I believe Dark A. Davis has been paid their final payment. We did add dissolved oxygen and total suspended solids probes. We talked about that last time I was here. So that invoicing hasn't been sent into the village yet. So that's coming. We've got to finish up the O&M and the as-builts. These DO probes need to get added to the as-builts. But we're wrapping up what I think has been a very successful project. And the plant should operate for years and years and years and years. And it would take a large water user to consume all the capacity that we added. We're over with the ability to treat over 900,000 gallons of wastewater per day there at the with the 4 SBRs we have at your wastewater plant. So that's really good. 3rd Street, a corrective action plan has been submitted by the contractor, and I believe we've accepted it. So we're going to recommend a little bit more money going to them. We're going to hold 5%, and then of course on the school portion, we're going to recommend that they hold more because there's another layer of pavement to go on that road. So we'll make sure we get a good job out of those folks. And if they balk, we do have performance bond on them that's still in force. So we're optimistic that they'll return in May or so when the pavement is up and running and get that taken care of. The drinking water asset management plan, we've got just a report to finish up there. So that was, we did the 3-point check of the water services. So we'll get that report out to Eagle. We're on schedule with that. Dearborn, you already awarded that to Georgetown Construction. I don't have a schedule from them yet, but we haven't had a pre-con either.
Not
So
yet.
we'll get the bonds and the contract put together. I think Georgetown will do a wonderful job. I've worked with them on several projects over the past couple of years. The president of the company I've known for over 20 years. So optimistic he'll do a really good job. And then High Street, bids will open on March 19th at 2 p.m. I believe that's Tuesday.
Monday or Tuesday.
Wouldn't it be a Monday?
I think it's
It's
Tuesday.
a Tuesday,
Yeah.
yep. So we've got some interest from some good local contractors. And I think that interest will grow a little bit, but Georgetown was one of them. Oatman many of you are familiar with them, are also KNR is a plan holder, so they're a larger firm. So I'm looking forward to a good bid opening there. And the work in that project is a little bit of sewer lining and things like that too. So that's part of that'll be like this year's phase for the continued progress on lining the old clay sewer pipes here in Middleville. Any questions?
Sounds good.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. You're welcome.
Thanks, Brandon.
I'm gonna stick around for a little bit.
All right, we are on to the ORV ordinance.
Good afternoon, council. So before you see the draft ORV ordinance, recommendation is for the village council to review the draft ordinance and take one of two actions. One, the village council requests staff to publish this for a public hearing for the March 26, 2024 meeting. Or two, request staff to work with village attorney to make necessary changes. Background, this is the same almost as this was previously submitted to the village council for consideration. Now, since the November 8th meeting, we do have the draft ordinance, which you should see two copies within your packet. One is the one with the changes, and the other has it highlighted and potentially red what those changes are. Rather than me going through all those changes, because there are a good amount, I don't know if anyone has any questions about timeframe process or anything within the draft ordinance, that we should start discussing. Comments, concerns?
I just had one question, and I didn't think about it until I was quick glancing at it before the meeting, if I may.
Absolutely.
Can you help me understand section 66-259? I wasn't quite clear on that. It confused me a little bit, so maybe some clarity on that.
So section 66-259 states in a court action in this state where competent evidence demonstrates that a vehicle permitted to be operated on a street, road, or highway pursuant to the Michigan Vehicle Code of 1949, Personal Act 300, as amended by the MCL 257.1 to 257.923, is involved in a collision with an ORV. The operator of the ORV involved in the collision shall be considered prima facie negligent. So this is dealing with in regards to the liability. If there is an accident, who that party is that will be responsible. This is posting that responsibility on the operator of the ORV.
So that was part of my confusion is if it's, so say a person in an ORV is parked at a stop sign and someone's not paying attention and clips the ORV, is that ORV still negligible even though they're following the rules of the road? Or
They are, because they are not licensed or insured to be in the public roadway in traffic.
Okay,
So every ordinance that's out there has this line in it.
okay,
That is an understanding that if you're using the shoulder of the road, you are not to be in traffic,
okay,
period. So if
Okay.
you are in traffic, you are automatically negligent in the proceedings of any collision,
okay,
and you don't have insurance, so you're liable and you have no coverage
okay,
because you're using your machine as it was not intended.
okay,
Yeah, this is in direct response to this concern that was brought up at the previous meeting
okay,
in regards to liability.
And prima facie just means on the face of it, so it just means that it's presumed, it doesn't mean it can't be proven otherwise.
right, that's what it,
So-
when I Googled it, that's what it.
Yeah.
I did Google that, so.
Mr. Hamilton?
Yes, I understand that golf carts are not included in the description of ORVs or all-terrain vehicles.
No, golf carts are separate. This is dealing with ORVs.
So this ordinance has nothing to do with golf carts.
That is correct.
So in our previous ordinance, we prohibited the use in public and private parking lots.
That's correct.
I believe we should be doing that again to protect business owners because we have unlicensed and uninsured vehicles operating in public and private parking lots that we found that to be prudent in the last one. And I believe we should include that again.
Can you repeat that? Is, you don't want them using private parking lots, is what you said?
They're not licensed and insured. If you're in the parking lot, you're in traffic.
To public parking.
Public parking lot.
And private parking lots. That was all part of, and alleyways. It's in the language of the old text, but there's no way to not be in traffic in a parking lot or an alley. You cannot be outside of the flow of traffic.
What if the business allows, if it's private business, what if the business allows for those vehicles on their parking lot?
That it's an unlicensed vehicle in traffic with licensed vehicles. It regardless of what the business feels, you're putting our constituents at risk.
So I don't know if this will assist with part of what's being discussed. So this can certainly be looked into in regards to adding that language, because the way this ordinance is written right now is that we would have to have a map that details where driving is, currently permitted. So I don't know if you can still hear me, but you can have this map as a blowout, since I'm not sure how easy it is to see.
You can move that microphone a little bit too, Doug, if you want. Yep. There you go.
So I'm not sure how easy this is to see within your current agenda packets, but all of the purple identified here are streets that could potentially be allowed for the operation of ORVs. This does not include areas where we may see private roads. This is solely public. M37 is prohibited, and beyond M37 being prohibited, you can only cross at right angles. There's only one intersection within the village that could potentially accommodate for that.
So these streets then are allowing the ATVs, ORVs to be on them.
If this draft ordinance was adopted by the village council as presented to you today, that is
Do
correct.
any of those streets have, none of those streets have parking lots or anything they can park in?
These
They
are
can
these are
only
just
drive through them.
just designated streets, because the operation within public or private space is going to be completely separate. This is solely, we're responsible for managing these public areas.
The only way you could accommodate parking for ATVs is to have a parking lot for ATVs only.
That's not necessarily true, that ORVs could be allowed to park within public areas. That certainly is
If they're
something.
licensed. I'm going back to President Kramer's comments.
So this did not suggest that parking ORVs in public areas was prohibited.
Yeah, I realize that, but
If that's a
absolutely should.
concern.
Mr. President asked for it to be included, so instead of, talking all around
Yep.
that, if you wanted to accommodate parking in the village for ATVs, it would have to be exclusively
For ATVs.
labeled for ATVs only,
Okay.
licensed or unlicensed.
And I think,
Well, a licensed ATV is a vehicle in traffic. They're licensed and insured. They can go
Yeah.
anywhere they want.
so I know we talked about that too in November. My only concern would be there were over 50 businesses that signed the petition for allowing these vehicles. So restricting them from choosing whether ATVs or ORVs can be on their private parking lots, I don't think is,
So their private parking lots are available to the public. It is a commercial business that is open to the
Right.
public, which makes that parking lot open to the public, which is why. So the wording was worded that way. So it is a business parking lot that's available to the public or public parking lot.
okay, I see.
So a driveway is okay,
Okay,
but a business is not, because you're
because,
inviting liability by not having an insured vehicle in traffic.
well, I'll use an example. I have a family that has a farm up the road, and they probably want to use their ATV to come down to Carvet and see their loved one during the summer months, and I'm not gonna prohibit that.
Well, I mean,
Yeah.
they just have to put plates on it and they're not prohibited at all.
So, that's my opinion, is that if it's private, business-owned parking lots, And we're opening it up not to the public, but because we're not an open campus. We're a campus available 24/7 to family members and loved ones. And if they choose to bring their ORVs or ATVs down to visit their loved ones, I'm not prohibiting that. And I don't think any private business owner should not have that choice.
Well, that petition was circulated under the understanding that we did not allow ORVs in the village, and that's
Right.
not true.
Right, I'm
We
just,
allow every ORV in the village that's licensed
Yeah.
and insured.
I understand that, but that's where I stand on that.
So, and just to recap too, so in regards to downtown, there's very few businesses that do have private parking.
I
It's
get that.
predominantly public. That, there are additional studies that we could do from a later perspective in regards to what the needs are. If the concern is related to parking, if it's related to liability, that's a separate discussion that I would forward those concerns to the attorney where he could draft the appropriate response.
I mean, again, it's private, it's private property, so
But you're encouraging an illegal use.
if this ordinance were to pass, they can drive on Main Street, so off the shoulder. But my point
outside of
is,
traffic.
my point is, we definitely need parking as part of this ordinance, because you're going to have people that want to enjoy the downtown amenities while being able to drive the ORV ATV.
That's
So,
contrary to your oath, to be completely honest, because the state law requires that every vehicle operating on public roadway has insurance.
Right.
And we took an oath to uphold state law and the state constitution.
But the whole point
Well,
of
not
this is to
necessarily.
change that for
Right.
ORVs, I thought. I thought,
If we have designated parking, but we don't,
Yeah.
but I don't know where we
If we
would
did.
put it.
I thought
I'm
the
just
whole
saying,
point
if
of
we
this
did.
whole thing was to change it so we could allow them,
Yes.
I mean,
period.
I mean,
so just
If we
on
did-
another, I apologize, Council. One iota too, parking is not specified within, ORVs or golf carts. If there was going to be changes made to the parking needs and how to better accommodate ORVs, my recommendation would be not to include it as part of this ordinance, but we actually draft it in regards to what our parking and vehicle storage regulations are
that makes
in
sense.
chapter 78 of the Village Code of Ordinances.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I think it needs to be part of this ordinance. It needs to be included. Because it's gonna be overlooked. That's the problem.
I don't think it'll be overlooked. You just,
I mean, this all came about because we had vehicles in traffic in a school parking lot where kids run out.
well, I don't think it'll be overlooked if Doug goes about it the way you just mentioned. We write a separate provision for signage or parking or whatever, and follow it that way.
So
No, that's not gonna be overlooked.
So your thoughts are that in regards to the operation of ORVs, adding an addendum in regards to where parking is permitted or prohibited?
I think
Regards
the
to safe
exclusion
operation.
of areas that would put them in traffic should be included in this ordinance. And then if we want to adopt another parking ordinance that if we ever find a piece of property to put in ORV parking, then that would be in section 78 or in our general code for our regular parking lots.
So public right of way prohibited as well as public parking spaces anywhere private.
Unless they're insured.
Well, this ordinance doesn't apply to them if they're registered
No,
and
it
insured.
doesn't. And it
Because
doesn't
now-
apply to farmers, right to farm either.
No. Steve, any thoughts?
Yeah, because then this happened before me, so I got some questions, stuff when I printed it out. One of the questions I have is ORVs can't be on M37 at all.
They can
That's a
cross
state.
perpendicular, but they cannot travel on it.
And that's a state. Yeah.
Okay,
That's not us thing.
I just look at our village being divided in half, and thinking, okay, they gotta stay here and they've gotta stay here.
No,
You can cross
over
it.
You can,
But you can't.
I understand that, but if you're going north and south, you're gonna have to be on M37. You can cross it
Well-
going east and west, yes, but
If you're going north and south, it's gonna divert them to our narrower streets in our subdivisions that already have issues with parking that we're trying to resolve, which is gonna be even harder to keep them out of traffic.
Only the purple areas are where people would be able to travel or operate ORVs.
yeah, correct. But you're not gonna run north and south on M37.
No,
You can only go across the road and that's it.
But it looks like Whitneyville Road is
So that
in
just leaves
there.
us at the traffic light, doesn't it?
Crane Road's in there.
There's a
Because
couple-
Finkbeiner, that won't take in Finkbeiner Road, they're out of the.
Oh, yeah, you're right. Well, once they leave the village, then they're under county.
Yeah.
Or
So,
whatever the
but the
township
one
ordinance is.
crossing we have in the village will be the traffic light up here.
that probably makes sense. The way people go down 37 is to control it at the light.
I'd also like to see something in here about child restraints. If it's required in a car, it should be required in a side-by-side.
I'm not opposed to that, actually. I thought that there was nothing in there for children. Car seat or something that is appropriate for that type of vehicle.
I have another question. Under 66-257, necessary equipment. ORV operators and all passengers shall wear a crash helmet and protective eyewear or goggles, except when the ORV is equipped with an approved roof and the operator and passengers are wearing properly adjusted and fastened seatbelts. So if you've got a double-seater side-by-side, you gotta have 6 seatbelts. The crash helmet should be protective equipment, hard exterior, so on and so forth.
DOT approved crash helmet. So what specifies an approved roof? Most of them are plastic.
Yeah, I haven't seen it.
Well,
A rollover.
So
usually they're metal frame enforced.
I was going to bring up, and I know the anecdote is not singular for evidence, but a lady that I worked with her family got tickets because they were not wearing helmets. They had an approved roof, but the police officer said, I have no way of telling if that's an approved roof. So all I can go on is whether you have helmets on.
Yeah. If
And
we don't,
wrote them the ticket anyways, and then just said, that's something you can sort out in court. That's
So-
what court's for.
if we're gonna require an approved roof, we definitely need specifications of an approved
We-
roof.
We would need something that the police can actually walk up with and be able to say, yes, that's an approved roof. Otherwise, it's unenforceable.
I thought the same thing when I read that. I thought, how do you know that? I've never seen a roof that I didn't think would withstand a rollover.
Or
People are gonna fall out before that roof's gonna help them.
all ORVs I've seen has metal framed roofs, so I would assume, except,
So there's a roll cage
Yeah.
and then there's a plastic roof on it.
right, so I would think that would be approved, but that, I guess look into that, but that would be an education on the officer's end.
If you roll
Yeah.
over and hit some type of obstruction, that roof is not gonna stop something from hitting your head.
But still,
And I think that's the concern of an approved roof. It's supposed
Yeah.
to be impact rated,
so,
but we'd have to search and find the definition of what an approved roof is.
yeah,
So to recap, it has the safety belt requirements, but it doesn't stipulate anything pertaining to children. So there should be additional language about what child restraints
If
are
they
for
are in a
12
car
to
seat in a
18.
car, they should be in a car seat in a side-by-side.
Because from children 12 to 18 that are required, okay.
No.
No.
Look younger.
younger
Just like they
than,
would in automobile.
From-
yeah,
From
Oh,
12
so
to
we're talking
0.
about passengers, not
Passengers,
operators.
not
Okay, all right, all
operators.
right, passengers, perfect.
I mean, I'd like to see an 18-year-old in a car seat.
That's, I gotta ask, I want to make sure we get all this clarification, so there's
I
no.
have a cousin that uses a booster to drive because she's
Right.
4'5".
Well, that's different.
That's
That's my next thing with that very same paragraph is gonna be enforcement.
Yeah, how do you enforce it?
Yeah.
I think the roof's the wrong term. I think it's roll bars is what's gonna protect somebody in a seatbelt. I don't know of any roof that's gonna absolutely protect anybody, even an automobile that rolls over that's not worthy of saving your life.
Well, it doesn't hurt to get the specs and then put the specs in the language so the officers have something to.
Yeah,
go
we
off
just
of.
need to define it.
Yeah.
And a lot of this is duplicating what the state and the county has. So that's similar to what the county's already going to be trained in how to enforce these issues as they would in other portions of the county. But yeah, I can certainly look into what language we could, potentially look in there for. But that was what my interpretation is similar to what you said, is that yes, we're looking at roll bars and that there being an approved roof being what the manufacturer had designed with the vehicle. Not requiring engineer to go out and verify a specific set of specs, since it's not going to be able for the law enforcement to verify that.
I have another one too, please.
Sure.
Under 66-255, operation conditions. Item 7, all operators must, upon demand by a law enforcement officer, present either an ORV safety certificate or driver's license. So we allow them to drive if they have the ORV certificate, doesn't matter how old they are.
It's stated in there several
Yeah.
times, they have to be at least 16 or
Okay,
older,
we didn't
and
say
then
that in that.
in that section, but it's stated throughout the ordinance.
It's defined earlier.
Yeah.
Hold on.
Or
I believe it's in section 66256, item C. Well, I'm sorry, item A and C. Item A deals with ORVs, where item C deals with three-wheel ORVs. And then those numbers are referenced in other
I
sections.
thought,
Specifically.
I thought that manufacturers no
256.
longer make three-wheelers.
No, but they're out there.
Yeah.
Pretty dangerous.
This is just in case, maybe this goes away, the ordinance is modified in the future, but, if there are people operating RVs, they would have to be at least 16 years of age.
66-256B is where that specifies that.
Yeah, it says person in age. Unless he's in possession of valid right.
Or under the direct supervision of a parent, the
Right.
person has in his possession an ORV safety certificate. So that means the parent's in the ORV.
Okay.
Be
Then-
similar to a
Like
door.
driver's training.
Yeah.
Then it goes on to define what it means.
Yeah, because it doesn't necessarily mean in, but they have to be
It
within
says they have to be
eyesight.
within eyesight and
This was- It doesn't
unaided.
mean I'm on the phone with them.
No, that- it means no
Right.
binoculars, no telescope, they have to be within
Right.
eyesight.
Things that I would have did when I was a kid probably. Let's see. I guess those were my big questions I had. And maybe we just got one way to cross from both sides of town. That's at the four-way or at the red light up here.
To get to most of downtown, but they can get to businesses going through the subdivisions.
Yeah, I mean, if they really wanted to travel up to Crane Road, they could cross there. Right? If they really want to go north-south.
They would have to go out of town on Bender.
Right, but
And
that's
that's not a
still,
problem.
right, but still, there's options to cross at other points. It's not all gonna be congested down to the Main Street and M37 section, cross section.
But on both sides of M37, Crane Road's not in the village limits.
Right. So
Yeah,
Well,
so.
you can get
so then-
Actually, I
to that
believe
point
we
off
should-
M37 there on Crane
we
Road.
should
It's right
remove
there.
Crane Road from that because there's bike lanes on Crane Road. You cannot operate an RV in a bike lane.
But it's a very wide road.
It's bike lane and then it's
But
traffic.
I was gonna say, so you're saying they should travel on the pedestrian path because it's
No,
wide?
that's not what it's not what I'm
Well,
saying,
I'm
Robert.
just seeking clarification
That's
on
not
that.
what I'm saying, Robert. So I'm saying we are focusing a lot on crossing M37 at Main and it's not the only option, is my point.
No, but
It's the only option within the village, which is all we have to be concerned with.
Right.
For clarity purposes, What section of Main?
So from Crane Road, from 37 to Grand Rapids Street has bike lanes on either side.
Yes.
So that should be omitted from that map. Because we are not encouraging people to travel in a bike lane. Unless we get rid of the bike lanes.
Well, I think we want to do that.
Do people use bike lanes there?
Yes.
Especially.
I don't know.
Is there any other issues that you see related to this? Because ideally, if this, part of this ordinance is, if this were to be adopted, that we make a map accessible for members of the public where they can understand where ORV operations are allowed within the village. So it's imperative that if there are issues, and we can look at this when this is brought back, but if you have any initial.
Not for the map, but DPW definitely needs to secure the cul-de-sac that approaches the learning center. Because we've had multiple, both side-by-sides and golf carts drive across private property to get to the playground at the school. So we need to barricade that so that stops happening.
Did you say golf carts?
And side-by-sides.
Huh.
They drive right on Rosenberg's property there and then cut across the drainage ditch and then drive into the school parking lot.
Yeah.
All right, so I
Really
guess,
stick with the alfalfa field.
If it's growing,
do you need a motion to have a recommendation to move forward with additional language? Or can we just give you consensus on?
So
Direction.
we just need to have clarity in regards to what it is that you're looking for right now. So if my understanding is correct, that there's a couple issues you're looking at having addressed. One being excluding, or the possibility of excluding parking within the right of way along with public and privately owned lots. Two, child restraints in ORVs. Three, specifications for an approved roof. Four, modifications to the proposed map, excluding the section of Crane Road between M37 and Grand Rapids from ORV traffic.
I don't personally agree with private. I can live with public parking listed for now, but I don't agree with private parking.
it's
I
not,
just don't.
so it's not private parking, it's privately owned, publicly available parking.
And that's where whatever recommendation you make as a board.
That was the
Okay, fair.
language that was on our previous ordinance.
Alright.
Because if you're allowing the public in,
And I'm not, I'm just saying,
mean-
if people are coming
if
to
the-
visit their loved one,
that's the public.
That's the public.
no, it's private, because I'm not,
Oh, that's public.
how
You're
is that public?
Because you're making a public accommodation. Anyone can show up and to show
But
up to the
people can
office
show
to
up in
ask-
cars,
To ask
Because-
questions and
in
stuff. Yeah,
motorcycles and
Because
bicycles.
they're licensed and insured, they can use that parking lot because it's traffic.
So-
That's the caveat. If you register and insure your vehicle, none of this applies. None of it.
So my recommend-
The onus is on the operator of the ORV.
If we're not going to get personal responsibility to register, you insure your vehicle as the state requires, then we need these regulations in place so we can enforce it.
They can come to your parking lot at their own risk, which they're doing today,
Fine.
if they come.
What were you gonna say,
No
Doug?
problem.
Oh, so my recommendation would be to request me to work with the attorney to make the necessary changes. But if you as a board make a vote in regards to whichever direction it is you're going, then I would annotize those changes. So it may be good for the council to potentially, once you're done deliberating, have a motion, see if it's carried.
I would make a motion to seek attorney input on the changes that you just listed.
Yeah. Support.
We have a motion with support to seek attorney input on potential changes to the ORV ordinance. Any further discussion before we vote? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. All right, we are back to public comment.
Can I borrow you for 1 minute before we go to public comment?
Okay,
If I can find my notes, that'd be helpful. Maybe, oh, here we go. Strategic planning. So I spoke with Marilyn Semcock.
I'm sorry.
What's that?
You told me this.
I did, but I forgot to add it to the agenda. So she suggested splitting it into 2 4-hour sessions, 2 evenings. That works for council, including stakeholders from DDA, township, school, and Parks and Rec. And we're looking at a couple of Thursdays potentially in April and May. If you guys want to get your calendars out, or I can send an email out and look. But we're looking and I don't know if everybody's going to be around during spring break or not. Spring break would be April 4th is what she's looking at. Otherwise, we've got the 11th, May 2nd, May 9th, and May 16th for potential dates.
So can you, April 4
Yep,
or the 11th,
yep.
and then May what?
May 2, 9, or 16.
Can we do, I like May 2 because I'm flying to Florida on April 12th, and I think April 4th is too soon to make any plans.
I almost put May 2nd.
So May 2nd is one, and then for the second date, either the 4th, 11th, 9th, or 16th.
Of May?
April 4th, April 11th, and then May 2nd, May 9th, and May 16th.
And we'd be looking at 2 evenings, so like 5 to 9 or 6 to 10 might be pushing it, but
You want to do the April 11th? April 11th and then May 2nd?
April 11th and May 2nd?
Can't do the 11th.
Can't do the 11th?
May 4th?
You want to send out a doodle poll? to
Sure.
Everybody and check availability.
Yep, I can do that.
Yeah, that'd be fine.
So let me check the boss's calendar, not just
Yep.
mine.
And then the price would be, and I'll bring a formal proposal to council meeting, would be $4,000 total for the session, for the
Okay.
2 sessions combined.
And this technically isn't our strategy meeting, right? It's not the,
It'd be strategic planning.
Part of it.
okay, part of it.
Yep.
Okay.
So the thought would be to include stakeholders from the community, and then either Mike or I, or somebody, from the council, after we put the strategic planning together, would present that to each of the various groups. So we'd present it to planning, we'd present it to parks, we'd present it to DDA, present it to township, schools, et cetera. At a
Okay,
separate
so
meeting.
like my parks meeting, so that'd be our liaison's responsibility, right? So,
Liaison and
We're hoping to get
like
like chair,
vice chair type deal.
okay,
So we're looking for a group of around 20 total, including staff, council, and stakeholders.
okay.
Doug, does this qualify for part of our master plan update for RRC certification? Because the master plan is our strategic plan.
And I do apologize, I missed part of the conversation, but yes.
Okay. And a joint meeting.
Mm-hmm.
When I talk strategy though, I talk more like when we have conversations about DDA and their goals and things like that too.
Yeah,
So,
that's
okay.
that's everything.
Okey doke.
All right, so I'll send out a poll tomorrow, and then just let me know what works best, and we'll get it booked. Thank you. All right, carry on, Mr. President.
I'm gonna make that IX. Agenda, strategic planning. I can't even spell anymore. All right, now we're moving on to public comment. I'll fix that later. Mr. Mears.
For public comment or for something
If I
else?
may, the talk of parking reminded me there is another issue we're working on. We've had a soil boring taken at the failed retaining wall by the
Oh,
old
no.
fire barn there off High Street. So
A what?
I don't want to know.
The retaining wall.
A soil boil is what you
Yeah.
said?
Yeah, we
Soil
need-
boring.
soil boring.
Boring.
So that will be used.
We have
so our-
concerns that we can't support the wall with the soil that's there? Or-
Well, we can, but we can't park any cars where the soil is there. So we've been asked to look into that.
Yes. Yes.
So we're replacing that retaining wall, and we can see whether we do a cast in place concrete wall, or we would use these ready rock walls. Many of you have seen like at Tanger Outlet's a real good example. for that. So,
They're coming back with some options for us.
right.
Okay.
So
The first option was not good,
Right.
pretty expensive.
I forgot to
Right, I
mention that
remember
in the
that.
earlier report.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I just didn't know what a soil boil was. Then.
Soil
I know that's what
boring.
it is now.
They're part of almost every job.
Yeah.
Generally speaking, when they have to come back with a soil boring, the information is not great.
Yeah.
In previous experience, it usually means there's a complication, right?
But I would say in this matter, they're gonna do blow counts and they'll test the capacity of, the bearing capacity of the soil at the foundation level, so we can, use that information to design the wall.
Okay. Okie dokie, thank you.
Expensive parking lot. Any other public comment? Hearing none, final council comment, anybody want to start? Steve?
I don't want anybody to think I was negative on the ORV, but I want it fully understood for myself. And I live in a neighborhood where people take advantage of not stopping at stop signs and speed and so on, and so forth. Little kids running equipment and stuff, and I just want to make sure that there's no injuries type of thing.
Yeah.
Same thing. I want no injuries, but I want everyone to be happy. I understand everyone has their opinions, but we have to make it work for all of us. And that's all I want to say. Thank you.
Dick?
Okay.
Mackenzie?
I'm looking to see some resolution over at the Bender Main Street intersection. I think that will be great for our kids and for those who have to regularly drive through that intersection during high volume traffic times. So I look forward to seeing that. And that's all I have.
Mr. Bishop?
I don't have anything other than to say, be careful out there. Had a little bit of a grass fire that got away from me. I was able to eventually stomp it out, but that wind can have things get away from you.
Yeah, I have concerns with this ordinance, the ORV ordinance, I'm not gonna lie. Sunday we had a birthday party at an establishment in the county that is on the corner of a state highway and a gravel road. We were there for 3 hours, which is another story entirely. But during that 3 hours, I mean, you can see the non-compliance. There were 20 machines in the parking lot, none of them insured, none of them with plates. People coming in for a couple drinks and then taking off, 6 of the 20 went down a gravel road, but they went right down the middle of it. The rest of them turned right on 179 and took off in either direction. It's not being enforced anywhere. So the whole premise of, you're buying a vehicle that's essentially half a Jeep. It is exempt from over a century of safety legislation because its intended purpose is not to be on the road with other vehicles. And now we're looking to exempt that. And it brings great concern because that puts our constituents at risk because it's not supposed to be there. The state knows that. Before everybody's time, Dick might remember this, in the 60s and 70s when fiberglass Volkswagens and sandrails were prevalent. I mean, this was a huge argument. It got out of control. They completely restricted it. And then after a lot of arguing back and forth, they gave us the assembled vehicle title. And my concern is now the actions of this generation are going to screw that up for the next 3 because there's going to be an incident. There's going to be a problem. And it's easier just to shut it down if it becomes a problem. And I don't want to see that happen. So I think we need to pay particular attention to this ordinance and make sure we're doing it right. So that's my concerns with it. Other than that, to kind of end it on a better note, everyone should have gotten a copy of the fire chief's annual report. They had some lofty goals last year and they achieved a lot of them. And they got lofty goals for next year. So I'm excited to see what they bring about for the next year. So with that being said, thank you for your time. Thank you for your patience. A motion will be in order.
Motion to adjourn.
Support. We have a motion with support to adjourn. Any further discussion before we vote? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
I think that's the quickest MCOW we've had.
Oh, there's been faster. when not enough people make it.
Yeah.
I was gonna make a joke about getting here really late, but being okay because at least I beat Kevin, but he wasn't even gonna be
It
here.
wasn't coming.
It's like, oh, shoot.